In at number 5 we have Puchin. The Puchin hail from southern Chile and is a creature from Mapuche mythology and Choloto mythology. The Puchin is described as a shape-shifting creature highly feared that can instantly change into animal form wherever it so desires. Throughout different stories it has often been described as a gigantic flying snake which produces strange whistling sounds, while its gaze could paralyze any victim it chooses, kind of like Medusa in that way, and permit it to suck its blood. In Chile the word Puchin also designates to the common vampire bat, so some cryptozoologists believe that common vampire bat is the origin of the legend. However, some believe that the Puchin could be related to the Chupacabra, something we'll be discussing later on. Spoiler alert. It is said that the only people who can defeat the Puchin are Mapuche medicine women. That was a mouthful. In at number 4 we have duendes. A duende, for those who don't know, is a creature from South America that originated from the phrase possessor of a house and was originally conceptualized as a mischievous spirit inhabiting a home. Now duendes appear to pop up in many cultures around the world. In Portugal the word is used to describe beings of a small stature wearing big hats whistling a mystical song while walking in the forest. It is said that they lure young girls and boys to the forest, causing them to lose their way home. However, in Latin America this differs slightly. Duendes are believed to be the helpers of people who got lost in the forest so they could find their way home. They are also known to be gnome-like creatures who live inside the walls of homes, especially the bedroom walls of young children. As you can tell, the legend differs from region to region, some believing they are the souls of infants who died before they could be baptized. Others simply portray them as malevolent spirits that hide in homes and wreak havoc. Regardless of that, they are nasty little suckers who cause problems wherever they go.
Number 3 on this list is the Encantados. The Encantados are a group of multiple demon creatures that reside underwater. They are extremely dangerous and have reportedly been responsible for several human disappearances. The thing about Encantados is that they're very curious about humans, and you may have no idea that you're dealing with one for a long time. Mental Floss says the Encantado is a dolphin, but one with evil powers. Encantado means enchanted one in Portuguese and refers to a special kind of boto or long-beaked river dolphin native to the Amazon that can take human form. Encantados are curious about humans and are especially attracted to big, noisy festivals which they often attend as musicians staying in human form for years. How can you recognize one? Look under its hat. They always have bald spots that are actually disguised blowholes. Encantados are usually friendly, but they occasionally hypnotize and kidnap young women and take them back to the Encante, their underground city. Sometimes the women escape and return pregnant with an Encantado baby. So they seem really nice and good right up until they decide to kidnap you and take you to their underground city where any number of things could happen. Most of the people who are taken there never return, and as they said, the ones that do have another passenger coming along for the ride. The origin of Encantados are not 100% confirmed, but it seems that many people think that it was a small village that was cursed to live underwater for a long time. Now they reside there except for the few times that they take the surface disguised as humans to see what we're up to and to take a few of us back to their evil lair. Number 2 on this list is El Sabon. El Sabon, also known as the Whistler, is a demon that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. This is a mistake though, and frankly we need to be talking and educating more about this demon and how dangerous it can be. The Spanish language blog says, according to a legend often told in the rural parts of Venezuela, El Sabon is the last soul of a young man who one day killed his own father in revenge because he murdered his son's girlfriend as he didn't approve of their relationship. After he killed his father, the young man's grandfather took it upon himself to punish him by tying him to a tree and beating him with a whip until he bled. Then he condemned him to carry his father's remains in a sack on his back. As the boy walked away into the plains, his grandfather yelled at him, "You shall not do that to your father, you are damned for all eternity," and then set his rabid dogs after him. It's said that the boy's spirit brings death and destruction to anyone who comes across him. His ghost is described as an extremely tall and skinny man who wears a farming hat and whistles the notes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. He's very tricky while deceiving his victims. When his whistling is heard up close, he's actually far away, but when he's heard from afar, you better start running because he's actually nearby. So, first off, that initial family is freaking messed up, dude. Your dad kills your girlfriend, so then you kill your dad, but then your grandfather beats you, forces you to carry around your dead dad, and then sends dogs after you. Like, what the heck? Aside from the family being absolutely bonkers, this demon is also kinda nuts as well. I get serious Batman Joker vibes from the creepy whistle that he does there to indicate that he's coming to get his victims. The way he kills his victims is said to be very graphic as well, and he won't have you die slowly. It will be a long and drawn out process of torture that will have you begging for death. Nobody really knows how to defend yourself against this demon either. Fighting it one-on-one just simply won't work and you're gonna lose. You just need to pay very close attention to the whistle, and if you do ever hear it, don't second guess anything, just take off and don't look back. Hope that he loses interest in you and moves on to something else. Just a terrifying demon who you need to avoid at all costs. And finally, number 1 on this list is Saint-La-Merte. So, Saint-La-Merte is one of the most famous on this list, and I can promise you that you definitely do not want to run into this one. Saint-La-Merte is your typical personification of death in South America. It is a male figure that's dressed in a hooded cloak holding a very sharp and very menacing scythe that is sometimes referred to as Saint Death. Saint Death, or just death if you will, brings one thing alone, and it's not a welcome gift. No, as you would expect, it's death. And this demonic personification of death is said to be pretty inherently evil as well. There are many followers that look up to Saint Death and praise him. The biggest following for him is in Argentina and the country surrounding Argentina. Saint Death is said to reward his followers by helping them on their evil ventures. Let's say that you're a dangerous murderer, but you're also a strong supporter of Saint Death. Well, if Saint Death likes you, then he'll use his powers that he has to have you evade the law or even assist you in killing people. He grants numerous requests that are all connected to crime and violence and is basically the guardian angel for the evil criminals of the world. Saint-La-Merte also acknowledges those who do not devote a part of their lives to him, and it's not the type of acknowledgement that you'd want. He will often kill those who disrespect him and don't support him. This is part of the reason why he has such a strong and stable following, and many people are constantly praising him and his abilities. If you ever see this demon confront you, then there's most likely nothing you can do at all. That will be the last thing that you ever see and your last moment ever spent on Earth. Number 5 on this list is a road to Petropolis. This road comes from Rio de Janeiro and goes to Petropolis. And before I talk about why this road is haunted, I do want to say that the name Petropolis is so freaking cool. Like, of course, a place called Petropolis is haunted. That name was just inherently meant for magic and lore. Anyways, guys, this is a road that leads out of the big part of Rio and goes to the northern mountain city of Petropolis. This road is near a national park, and considering it also goes through the mountains, can get pretty secluded at points. It's along this road that you may encounter the vision of a ghost. Apparently, there's no rhyme or reason to who this ghost will show itself to, but drivers have reported seeing a stunningly beautiful blonde woman wave to them on the side of the road. The drivers will stop and see if she needs any help, and this woman will tell them that a car crash has happened in a nearby ditch. Typically, the drivers will get out of their car and go see if they can help. Sure enough, as the woman described, there will be a car that's turned over in a ditch, smoking, as if it's just swerved off the road and crashed. When the people look inside the vehicle, though, they will see the dead body of that same woman who just pointed them in the direction of the vehicle. A few seconds will pass where the person will internalize what they're seeing, and then the car and the woman will vanish into thin air, like it was never there in the first place. Legend says that this woman died from a car accident along this road when she swerved into a ditch. Now she haunts the road and all that drive through it. She isn't necessarily out to harm you, which is always a good thing, but the people that have seen this are typically scarred for life. They will be standing in this ditch looking at the empty space where a car used to be, completely shell-shocked. I personally can't imagine what would be going through my head if that was me standing there. I also feel bad for this ghostly woman too. She obviously doesn't want to hurt anyone, but her spirit can't seem to pass on and get the closure that it needs. Maybe the reason that she shows people her death is because when she initially crashed in her car, nobody stopped to check up on her. That's my theory anyways, but let me know in the comments down below if you have any theories of your own as to why this ghost is showing them her car crash. Number 4 on this list is Brazilia City Hall. Brazilia City Hall is a government building that has had quite a scary history. This building is said to be haunted now, and it's no wonder why, considering the amount of unsettling things that have went down in this location. First off, before this building was even constructed, there was a mortuary here. This was one of the biggest mortuaries in the area and housed thousands of bodies while it was operating. During that time, there were already rumors about it being haunted. The spirits of some of the dead that wanted to cling to life haunting the space. The legend of a haunting got blown up though when the mortuary burned down with a bunch of dead bodies inside of it. This was when people decided to transition this from a mortuary to the building that it is today, the Brazilia City Hall. All of the ghosts that have been accumulating during its time of being a mortuary though, and in that bad fire, they didn't go anywhere. Cabinets flying open, things being thrown around the room, lights turning on and off, and sounds that come from apparently thin air. These are all regular occurrences at the Brazilia City Hall. It doesn't stop with just that though. In fact, the spirits that occupy this place can become quite a nuisance. There's a famous story about how one man was left in the building. He was finishing up with his day and was about to leave, but he got locked in that building. He was the only one on the premises though, and it's impossible for him to lock himself in, so somebody else had to have done it. The only explanation anybody could come up with was the spirits at Brazilia Hall. Frankly, I doubt that we would be able to visit this place anyways, considering it's a government building, but if you do, then pay very close attention to the locks on the door. You might just get locked in yourself.
Coming in at number 3, El Chupacabra. Also known as the Chupacabra, this is a goat sucker, a legendary creature that was first reported back in the mid-90s. The name itself comes from the animal's reported habit of attacking and drinking the blood of livestock, including goats. Now, there is actually said to be 2 kinds of Chupacabra. One is a reptilian kind, the true Chupacabra, and a canine kind, who are also called blue dogs. The first known sightings and attacks occurred back in March of 1995 in Puerto Rico. 8 sheep were found dead, each drained of blood. Investigators found 3 strange puncture wounds in the chest of the animal. A few months later in August, an eyewitness, Madon Tolentino, reported seeing the creature in the town of Canovanas, when as many as 150 farm animals and pets were reportedly killed by the creature. Jumping forward to 1975, similar killings in the town of Mocha were attributed to the vampire of Mocha. It was initially believed that these acts were committed by a satanic cult, but later more killings were reported around the island, and many farms reported loss of animal life. Each of the animals were reported to have had their body bled dry through a series of small incisions. Now, like I mentioned before, the most common description of the Chupacabra is that of a reptile-like creature, said to have leathery or scaly greenish-grey skin, and sharp spines or quills running down its back. The other popular description is that of a strange breed of wild dog. It is described as being hairless and has a pronounced spinal ridge, unusually pronounced eye sockets, fangs, and even claws. In at number 2, La Llorona. Hailing from Hispanic folklore, La Llorona, which I'm pronouncing correctly now after you guys yelled at me in a previous video, is also known as the Wailing Woman or even the Crier. This is a legend about a woman who drowned her children in a lake and now mourns their deaths for eternity, roaming South America as a ghost or apparition. The story itself goes as follows. The woman was unloved by her husband, and one day she caught him with another woman. So as revenge, she drowned her sons in a river in grief and anger, and then drowned herself after she realized what she did. She was ultimately refused entry into heaven, for obvious reasons, unless she found the souls of her 2 sons. So now legend states that she roams the earth, hunting for the souls of her sons, with her cries and wails luring in innocent victims. La Llorona kidnaps wandering children at night, mistaking them for her own. Folks who have claimed to have seen her say that she appears at night or in the late evening by rivers or lakes, wearing a white gown with a veil, and some believe that if you hear the cries of La Llorona, you are marked for death. Now, one particular encounter went as follows. A boy and his family were sitting near a creek between Mora and Guadalajara in New Mexico when they saw the form of a tall, thin woman. She seemed to float over the water and end up the hill out of sight until returning a little later closer to them. The family had suspicions that she was La Llorona, so they went to the shore to see if there were footprints, and there were none. Creepy stuff. More interesting still, the earliest reference to La Llorona was actually in a sonnet written by Mexican poet Manuel Carpio in the late 1800s, where he identifies her as the ghost of a woman who was drowned by her husband. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have El Sabon. Hailing from Colombia as well as Venezuela, El Sabon, also known as the Whistler, is a legendary figure described as a lost soul. This tale originated in the 19th century, with the Whistler being described as the harbinger of death. According to the legend, a son kills his father after he returns home to find his father attacking his mother. This angered the boy, resulting in him killing his father. Another version is a tad more disconcerting and states that the son was a spoiled brat, and on one afternoon he demanded that his father hunt for a deer, his favourite meal. However, when his father did not find any deer and instead returned empty-handed, his son killed him and cut out his heart, cooking them for dinner. Following this, the mother grabbed the boy's grandfather, who then tied the boy to a tree and unleashed a vicious dog on him. As this was happening, his mother put a curse on the boy, which ultimately condemned him to wander the plains as a ghost, carrying a sack of bones on his back. Some versions of the story state that these bones are of his father, while others state that these are the bones of his victims. Now, the whistler is said to have a characteristic whistle that resembles the musical notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B in that order. It is said that when the whistling sounds close, there's no danger, but if the whistling is far away, it means the whistler is nearby. Very confusing, I know. It is also stated that hearing the whistler foretells one's own death, and in this situation the only thing that can save the victims is the sound of a barking dog. Many people from Venezuela have said that they have spotted the whistler, primarily in the summer. However, it is mainly on rainy days that the whistler wanders, hungry for death and eager to punish drunkards, womanizers, or even innocent victims. It is said that the whistler will suck the alcohol out of drunkards through their navel when it finds them alone, and it tears womanizers to pieces, removes their bones, and puts them in the sack where it keeps the remains of its father. Lovely stuff.
Number 5 on this list is El Coco. El Coco is a demon that is said to specifically go after children living in South America. This is a story that is told to children all over the continent to ensure that they go to sleep when they're supposed to. Villains Wiki says, Coco is a monster who exists to enforce taboos and ensure that children sleep when told. For, should children disobey orders to sleep, Coco is said to hunt them down and may inflict a number of gruesome punishments upon them depending on the story. Usually he's said to eat the children or spirit them away, never to be seen again. Coco may also emerge as a female known as La Coca. The two beings are seen as extensions of the same monster, and as such the Coca is little more than Coco taking a female guise, and vice versa. Both share the exact same motives and terrible behaviors. While a force of punishment, Coco is also an opportunist and is said to outright kidnap and devour any disobedient he can find. This is seen as further proof that children should mind their manners and always obey their elders in case a lurking Coco happens upon them misbehaving and captures them for a nightmarish fate. El Coco, El Coca, really doesn't matter which one you get because they're both gonna destroy you if you're a and you disobey your parents. Now, this is probably just a story told by parents to frighten their children into doing what they want them to do. But if there is some legitimacy to this, then this is by far one of the worst demons in South America. To kidnap and kill little for not going to sleep when they're supposed to is pretty horrible. If I was a kid and I heard this story, I'd be so scared to go to sleep on time that I probably wouldn't be able to fall asleep on time. Thank goodness I grew up in North America and didn't have to deal with El Coco. Number 4 on this list is La Odita. This demon is specifically out here hunting for the men. Max Gax writes, this is a common tale across Latin America, including Argentina. La Odita is known as the Black Widow. She's said to be a beautiful woman, veiled and dressed in black from head to toe, who walks in the streets after midnight. She tries to get drunk men to her house. If she succeeds, it's then and only then that she will take off her veil to reveal that her face is nothing more than the grotesque skull. The sight is said to be so horrific that the men are quite literally scared to death as the woman lets out a shriek of hair-raising laughter. For those that survive, they awake at dawn, usually lying in a puddle or covered by thistles and swearing to never party until late again. Let me tell you guys, I am the type of individual who likes to go out. In fact, I do it most weekends. If I was several beverages deep and some pretty lady takes her face off, that's it folks, I'm done. There is literally no more Nicholas Playlog after that. I have no idea why this demon does what it does, but it means that every Argentinian gentleman had better be on the watch for something like this when it flips over to 2 AM at the club. Also, no one has any idea what the thistles are doing there or why you're covered in a puddle. So clearly something pretty terrible happens after you pass out with this demon as well. Probably something that I don't even want to know about. Number 3 on this list is the Imperial Museum of Brazil. The Imperial Museum of Brazil is apparently one of the most haunted locations in the country. It's located in Petropolis and was built right where the palace of Dom Pedro II used to live. Dom Pedro II, according to Google, was the second and last monarch of the Empire of Brazil, reigning for over 58 years. He was born in Rio de Janeiro, the seventh child of Emperor Dom Pedro I of Brazil and Empress Dona Maria Leopoldina, and thus a member of the Brazilian branch of the House of Braganza. Now, even though he died in 1891, his ghost has never truly left. It's said that this museum is often host to his ghost, and also the ghosts of the staff that used to work at his residence. These ghosts don't appear to be particularly harmful in their nature. In fact, many people have reported having conversations with these people, not even recognizing that they were talking to a ghost until after the interaction. Hundreds of sightings have happened over the years of spirits walking through the museum in the night. The whole story reminds me a lot of the movie Night at the Museum, except instead of the museum's exhibits coming to life, it's a bunch of ghosts. As much as I preach not going to these haunted spots, if there was anyone that I would go to, then it would have to be this one. I honestly think it'd be pretty cool to have a conversation with the ghost of the last reigning monarch of Brazil. I can't say a lot of people have done that before. Number 2 on this list is the Dream Beach. This beach is located in Sao Paulo, and like most Brazilian beaches, it's quite beautiful. It's an amazing spot for tourists and people looking for their fix of surfing. It's also an attraction for people who are interested in the paranormal, considering it's very haunted. The Dream Beach is said to be haunted by a couple. This couple reportedly drowned together at this beach many years ago, and now their spirits haunt its shores. The whole origin story of how they drowned is kind of up in the air, but people believe that bystanders saw them drowning and nobody sprung to action to help them. Instead, they all just watched. This obviously angered this couple, and now the spirits believe that humans are inherently evil. Several drownings have been linked to this ghostly couple in the past. An apparition will appear in the water and pretend that they're drowning. People will hear the cries and go to save them, but will be pulled into the waves a little bit too far and then drown in the ocean. I personally find it a little bit ridiculous that these ghosts would be trying to kill the people that decide to save them. Like, I would think that they would want to hurt the people who don't try to save the apparition, but I suppose they're simply just angry with humans as a whole. These ghosts will also appear on the shore sometimes and let out loud shrieks. All the lifeguards and people who monitor the beach are familiar with the lore, with many of them having their own run-ins with this couple in the past. The problem with these ghosts is that if you do go to this beach and see somebody drowning, then you may be walking into a trap by going to help. But if you don't go to help and it's a real person, then you'll have to live with yourself knowing that you let somebody die. Brazil has a lot of beautiful beaches, and if it was me, I would look to one of the other ones for my surfing fix. Number 1 on this list is the Jolma Building. This Jolma Building, which is now called Praça de Bandeira, was a building that was located in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and was completed in 1971. This was a big skyscraper and had 25 floors to it and could have hundreds of people in it at one time. Sadly, something extremely tragic happened at this building in 1974 when hundreds of people were in fact inside of it. The building caught fire and had a horrible blaze that killed hundreds of people. The death toll rose above 200, with some people saying that it could be closer to 400 or 500. This horrible fire started due to an electrical short in an air conditioning unit. This building was not built to handle something like this either, as it didn't have adequate means of escaping and there were no sprinklers installed in the building. The fire crews took far too long to get there as well due to the traffic jam that was mounting surrounding the building. This fire goes down as the second worst skyscraper fire in history, only behind the September 11th attacks and fatalities. Someone who had arrived very early on is reported saying, "When I got there, the flames were already racing up through the building. Already people were jumping from the windows." All of this horrible death has led this location to become extremely haunted. Obviously, after this brutal fire, there was not much left of the building, but they decided to start construction on the area again, and that's where you get the new building, Praça de Bandeira. Even though they changed the name, the spirits still cling to this location. Many reports of ghosts have been told by the people that visit this spot. One common story is the apparition of an older man that will appear to certain people. He's covered in third-degree burns and will wail and scream as if he's still burning. Another story is the 13 people in the elevator. It's believed that 13 people got trapped in the elevator during the fire and burned to death in there together. Stories have been told of people waiting for the elevator, and when it comes, seeing 13 people that look half dead standing there in front of them. The elevator's lights will flicker sometimes, and it may just stop without warning as well. What happened decades ago, and I cannot echo this enough, is such a horrible and tragic event. It's no wonder that the spirits of these people potentially still linger at this location. Number 5 on this list is La Madremonte. According to myths and legends of Colombia, La Madremonte is a legend in which a woman who wears moss, leaves, and a green hat that conceals her face. She lives in the dense jungle and supposedly bathes in rivers, causing flooding and heavy storms. Madron haunts those who steals other people's land and casts plagues on cattle owners who ignore boundaries and take advantage of others. She also dislikes unfaithful spouses, vagabonds, and general mischief makers and punishes them by placing insurmountable obstacles in their path when they walk through the jungle. They eventually fall asleep with exhaustion and do not wake for hours. I think what's especially dangerous about this demon is her ability to control the weather the way that she does. It's said that even if you happen to be walking throughout the jungle or forested areas and you happen to get close to where she lives, then she'll use her powers to change the weather and make it extremely dangerous for you. This has caused some people to die before and wrecked even people's homes. For the most part, she'll target people who have wronged somebody else before, and even though this isn't right, it at least means that you can protect yourself by not wronging somebody else. However, to just be walking and accidentally run into her home and then get swept up in a horrible lightning storm definitely isn't cool. Be very careful of this demon witch in the woods if you happen to be around the area. Number 4 on this list is El Chupacabra. One of the most famous urban legends in the area, El Chupacabra is probably one that you've heard of before. Now, this demonic creature is most commonly associated with Puerto Rico. It has, as time gone on, been spotted more and more frequently in parts of South America though, like Chile. Wikipedia says, the Chupacabra or Chupacabras, literally goat sucker from Spanish, chupa to suck and cabras goats, is a legendary creature in the folklore of parts of the Americas, with its first purported sightings reported in Puerto Rico in 1995. The name comes from the animal's reported vampirism. The Chupacabra is said to attack and drink the blood of livestock, including goats. Physical descriptions of the creature vary, with some describing it as more dog-like, while others describe it as a reptilian and alien-like thing. Some report it as being a heavy creature the size of a small bear with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail. Now, after some extensive research on this creature, I couldn't actually find any reported attacks on humans. So it seems that this bloodthirsty villain is truly only interested in animals. That being said, there were some instances where people had seen this creature, tried to stop it, and it looked as if it was preparing to attack them. Like most vicious animals, it's probably most interested in its food, but it's gonna defend itself to the last ounce of its energy if it has to. Therefore, El Chupacabra is truly only super dangerous to farmers of livestock. If you happen to be a farmer of said livestock, then having some sort of mechanism to keep out this vampiric demon lizard is of critical importance, or else it will completely decimate your animals. It's definitely better that you invest in some serious fencing, because trying to stop it by yourself, it could prove very dangerous. Number 3 on this list is Lokana. Lokana, believe it or not, is a barn animal. Yeah, we're looking at a demon who is literally a barn animal here, folks. Pepe's Chile writes, in this Chilean legend, a woman deceived her family by being a housewife during the day and a witch at night. She would use potions to turn herself into various animals and play while her family slept, then use another potion to turn herself back into a human when morning came. One night, she forgot to make sure the children were asleep and they saw her turn into a sheep. As she ran off to play, the children wanted to imitate her and turn themselves into foxes. When they couldn't turn back into children, their cries woke their father. Seeing what had happened, the father threw all the potions into the river in a rage. When the wife came home, she couldn't turn herself back into a human and was doomed to remain a sheep forever. So you're probably thinking to yourself, great, the witch is no more, she's a barn animal now, what can she even do? Well, it's believed that this demon, goat, witch woman is the worst omen that you can see in South America. Sheep are a pretty common animal, but if you happen to set eyes upon this particular sheep, then horrible luck will befall you and your loved ones. Terrible tragedies that you can't even imagine or don't even want to begin to think about. So, how are you going to know that you've seen this sheep when there are so many others in South America? Apparently, you're gonna just know. Every demonic encounter that I've read about talks of people feeling that horrible sense of foreboding and a terrible presence. Apparently, something similar happens here. Time slows, and as you make eye contact with that demonic barn animal, you know that something horrible is about to happen. There's really nothing you can do to avoid this one, it's just sort of luck of the draw. Hopefully Lokana doesn't pick you. Number 2 on this list is Besta Fara. Besta Fara is absolutely deadly, guys, and one of the most visually striking demons on this list. TV Tropes writes, Besta Fara, translated to bestial beast, the Besta Fara is a horse with a human torso, believed to either be a servant of or the devil himself, who leaves hell through cemeteries during full moon nights to brand people with his mark, which dooms them to hell. Some legends say that instead of marking people, its sight causes them to go insane, but only for a few days. It's also said that it roams forest areas in search of a blood-soaked red flower, and that when he finds it, he disappears. Blood-soaked red flower. No idea what that is, and I don't think I even really want to know either, guys. This is not the creature that you want to run into if you're chilling in South America. This may even be the devil himself for all we know. Artists' renditions of this creature are truly terrifying, and we don't actually have any photographs of the beast because anyone who gets close to it doesn't make it out alive. Stay away from Besta Fara at all costs. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Waikifu. The Waikifu is a horrible demon that you can find in Argentina. Maxgax writes, this legend comes from the Mapuche people of Argentina and Chile. According to them, the Waikifu is a harmful spirit or demon. When they were introduced to Christianity, the Waikifu were said to inhabit people as well as being free-form spirits. They can alternate between a human and an animal form too. They're aimed to enslave the souls of the dead, and they take great pleasure in spreading diseases and killing people. They were said to come from the west and had no soul. They were said to enter our world as a consequence of battles with the Pilan spirits, which resulted in the destruction of the perfect harmony of the world. They have the power to capture and enslave the spirits of the recently dead if it is reluctant to leave the body and transform into a greater spirit. If they do manage to trap a spirit in this way, they can use them to hurt other people. In this way, the Waikifu have feared entities. Not only can they enslave your soul and rob you of an afterlife, they can use you to hurt others, perhaps even your own family and friends, and many feel this fate is truly worse than death. Now, what I want to know, folks, and I don't think there's any way to find this out without getting enslaved, but what does it feel like to be under their control? Are you aware that you're under their control? Do you recognize the actions that you're doing when you do them? Or are you just a mindless dummy who's a shell of your former self? Personally, if I ever was to get attacked by one of these things, I would prefer the latter. If this demon forced me to kill or harm my family and loved ones, and I was aware of what I was doing, then yeah, that is way worse than death. Trapped in your own mental prison, having to watch as you hurt the ones that you care about, it's no wonder this demon is so feared in Argentina and why the locals have tried to do everything they can to avoid it.